It is biologically impossible to gain too much muscle naturally, and by naturally I mean without using any sort of anabolic drugs. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today, but a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, be greatly appreciated. If you are not subscribed or following, please do so, and if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I would appreciate that so much. Thank you. And let's get over to the topic. You get people who get worried about different health effects, or getting slower in sports or anything else because they gained too much muscle. And I think what people are forgetting is you were purely talking about heavily enhanced lifters and athletes. This doesn't actually happen to people not on drugs. This doesn't even happen to people on a replacement dose. So someone who's on, say, actual legitimate TRT, this still doesn't happen. Like if you're getting too big, it's because you're too fat. Okay? It's because you gained too much fat. It has nothing to do with the muscle. And I'll get into that a little further in a minute. People say, but this person had this problem or whatever. And it's like, yeah, because they used tons of drugs. That had nothing to do with lifting weights and eating protein. I mean, yeah, that was involved, but the 3 grams of steroids plus all the insulin they were shooting were probably the culprits. Just saying. All right, I digress. Back over to the point. So when we get to this topic, people will say those things, but then when you look at the research and the data, it's not true. It's not supported. What we generally find is that the more muscle you have, it reduces cancer rates. Every pound of muscle in your body is protective against cancer. So that's, straight up. This is documented. It's known, fairly open-ended. All right? In fact, best things you can do for some of that is if you eat as many fruits and vegetables as you can tolerate, right? You eat as many fruits and vegetables as you can tolerate, and you gain as much muscle as you possibly can, your odds of getting cancer, or especially things like diabetes, drop absurdly low. Ridiculously absurdly low. Not impossible, because people win the lottery. People get struck by lightning. But, the odds are extreme, to the absolute extreme in your favor. Same thing, diabetes, it's not going to happen. Anytime you see someone with muscle who got diabetic, it's because they ate really bad and got really fat. You still see that sometimes. Or they used huge amounts of insulin for bodybuilding purposes, okay? Which is actually a thing. For the unaware, that's the reason the guys got so big in that next generation, right? You guys started seeing in the 90s, they started getting a lot bigger. That's why. So I digress. Let's set that aside. But as you can imagine, that's probably not the healthiest thing in the world. Okay, probably not the healthiest thing in the world. But the lifting weights is fine. The same thing, cardiovascular health. We know strength training does more than cardio for it. You should do both, but it absolutely contributes. And people say, well, what about left ventricular hypertrophy? What about this or that? It's like none of that's coming. The health issues are not coming from the lifting weights and gaining muscle. Okay? Again, we don't have evidence that this is causing issues when drugs are not in the mix. Does that make sense? Hopefully people are understanding that. They are confusing an anabolic steroid issue with muscle. There's been no data ever that supported the idea that gaining muscle in any amount itself purely from lifting weights in the normal hormone range and eating protein causes any risk of cardiovascular disease. The net impact is positive. So even if you see some minor stuff with that they call athlete's heart, the other athletic components of it and the muscle gain components of it offset it. Same thing, people will say, well, doesn't the muscle make the heart pump harder? No, not for just normal activity. Yeah, if you're getting up doing cardio, it will. Sure. But you're going to burn a hell of a lot more calories, man. You're going to lose fat easier. But again, are you talking not a muscle you gain from lifting? You're talking about from using anabolics. Two different things here. Not exactly the same thing. So, over to that other point, no, muscles actually help with that. So gaining muscle tissue doesn't put an extra strain on your heart. all the capillary beds and everything through there, and your muscles working around them actually facilitate better blood flow. Okay, your heart doesn't do all of the pumping. Right, a lot of your blood vessels, your capillaries, all these other things, they're responsible for it. That all the vasculature in those muscles grows in proportion with them. So again, this is nonsense. It's not based on reality. And the other thing is, we can talk about longevity. People say, well, weighing too much when you're older. Okay, how much muscle do you really think you're going to retain when you're 80? Unless you're still using drugs to help keep it up. I mean, if you're using a replacement dose to keep your testosterone where it was at age 16, you're using some growth hormone to keep your HGH levels where they were when you were 16, okay, sure, maybe. But without all that, you're not keeping all that muscle. You're going to be lucky to keep the bit you can. And all the available research and data shows us that, yes, if you get as big as you possibly can, gain every last drop of muscle that you can when younger, and you just do your best to hold on to it, at 60, at 70, at 80 years old, you're going to have less hip fractures, which that's lethal, by the way. When you're over 60, a broken hip is pretty much a death sentence. Surviving that is like winning the lottery. Being alive 5 years after fracturing a hip is like, again, you won a little small lottery there. You don't want that to happen. So lifting weights helps with that. Sarcopenia, loss of muscle, is one of the biggest killers with age. Okay, so you want to retain as much of it as you can. And no, you're probably not going to be super jacked at 75 without drugs, no matter how big you got. But if you can keep as much of it as possible, your cancer is going to go down, diabetes goes down, cardiovascular disease goes down, bone fractures go down, okay, metabolism stays higher, need for a walker goes away, all this stuff, right? So this idea that there's a detriment to gaining muscle itself is insane. It's not based on reality, and any kind ideas that people have about it are entirely derived from the anabolic world. They're nothing to do with actual lifting weights. And even that has been overblown until people get to the excessive realm, right? So we have to understand that too, and that's a whole other topic of most of those health concerns and deaths. The amount of stuff that people are abusing would blow your mind. Okay? These aren't people who are doing 3 shots a week and calling it quits. Okay? Maybe 5 a day, and I'm not exaggerating, 10 a day. But I digress, separate topic. So I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.